But thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course, man.
I
I'm honored
appreciate
to
it.
do this. Yeah, of course.
All right, so we're still recording. So yeah, let's just get into it. 5.8 million. Do you know what that number is?
I think I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, the your YouTube video that I'm very interested in. I'm sure you've talked a lot about like a lot of going viral and all that stuff, but uh I'm just interested more in the what happened after that, right? So you go viral by mistakenly, I'm assuming, right? Like obviously you put whatever online just to make it, people watch it, but then there's a big difference between like 300 people watching it and then 5.8 million, right?
Yeah. It was just something just messing around, messing with my sister, and I was like, oh, I'll put it on Facebook and YouTube, and my friends will watch it and think it's funny, and it'll get some laughs, and it'll be great. Like,
Right.
I think everybody has a little. If you post something on YouTube, everybody has that like little thing in the back of their head. They're like, oh, like maybe everybody will love it, and but
Yeah.
like you just not anything you really can prepare yourself for.
Absolutely. And then so I actually scrolled through the comments just to see, and all the comments seemed pretty positive. Normally,
Yeah,
the comment section can, like, nobody's perfect. Everybody just attacks things, but it seemed really positive. So, and then you put up like a version two, and it got, I think, like 60,000 or 70,000, even
yeah,
though 70,000 views is a shitload of views. How did that
yeah.
feel? How was the difference?
I mean, I think if I'm being honest, it just blowing up like that. I just kind of assumed the next one would be like that, and it wasn't. It obviously wasn't the same response. Plus, I kind of half-assed it a little bit. Like instead of like actually doing a full thing, we just went to Qualcomm Stadium parking lot, and
Just
I
drove
didn't
around.
put this. Yeah, I didn't put the same effort in as I had in the past. So, it's it was cool, and like I still felt motivated at the time to do it, but it definitely took the wind out of my sails a little bit.
Yeah, which is funny, but if you think about if you were to do it the first, like you put the first one, it gets 60,000. You're like, whoa, this was awesome. And then
Yeah,
imagine putting the second one and then it gets the millions of views. You'd be like,
yeah,
I made it, like it's working. Whereas now that the reverse, somehow 60,000 views is a loss. Like I would, if this gets 11 views, I'll be like, oh, cool, it's on par.
yeah,
But that's just, yeah, like you said, it's. I think everybody just starts putting things on the internet that they hope will potentially get viewed by everybody. You had that opportunity. If
yeah.
you were to go back and, like, let's say you knew you had your next video was gonna 5.8 million or whatever, 10 million,
Mhm.
what would you do differently?
I think honestly, if I had the chance to do it again, I would be way more diligent in taking the opportunities that I had at the time. Like it just kind of went off, so I just assumed like, oh well, I'm just I'm just that lucky, and that's how it'll work out for me. And I
Mm,
think if I could have done it again, I would be very diligent. I would be pumping out videos weekly. I would just run with that time that I had. And I got to do a couple things, got to go to LA and do a couple shows and stuff like that. And I think I just kind of assumed like I'm done now. I don't, I don't have to work as hard.
I'm the
And
lip
that
syncing
was
guy. Like I could just make it happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's part of the thing of just being given something instead of kind of having to earn it. Like I didn't have to earn that experience, so it just kind of was like, okay, well, this is mine now. But if I had to have done like 100 videos to get to that point, I think my mindset would have been a whole lot different. I would have been like, okay, now we finally got one to hit. Now it's time to put the nose to the grindstone and keep going. And sometimes I wish like I would have done that then, but I also don't think I was ready for it. I was in a different headspace in my life, and it was fun and I enjoyed all those experiences, but I don't think I would have been ready for that level of exposure to consistently happen over and over. I was already starting to crack after like a few months of it, so I
Just
don't
like
think I would have
DMs
been
and
ready.
comments and all that stuff and like
Yeah,
opportunities and fake opportunities, things like that.
exactly. Like there was so much going on, and like my sister wasn't a huge fan of all the exposure. Like we weren't expecting it. We are just expecting like to be something a little fun. And she's very introverted, and so she hated doing all the interviews. She hated the constant attention. I
Yeah.
remember her saying like one of her middle school teachers reached out, and she was just kind of like, "Why is this happening?" Like she was just so over. She's like, "I don't want to be talking to all these people. I don't want to do this." And I'm like, I get it. But she
Yeah.
was really gracious and went along with it because she knew I was having a good time doing it. So,
Yeah. Meanwhile, you're
but
like, it's different now. We're just in a different,
yeah,
mindset. People recognize us now. And yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting of just like being ready for it. And then you also have to think of like, do you want to turn into that person? Right. So I think it's everybody looks at like, wow, that's so cool that I could go viral. And then potentially if let's say you were doing those numbers with every video, you could monetize it. You could start making
yeah,
enough money to, that's all you had to do. But then that becomes all you have to do. You know what I mean? Every time people
yeah,
see you, it's like, hey, can we take a picture? They'll start playing a song and be like, lip sync this for me. Let me. And then you just become like this punching bag of, hey, sing this, hey, sing this.
yeah.
And that you can become like, just owned by the internet. So that was interesting. I just, yeah. Any, anything that you haven't, I guess, are you still trying potentially in that lip sync, or is it now just like you only do that for fun?
I've done like a couple little things just on my story on Instagram. I haven't like made a video in a while, like how I used to,
Hmm.
where do like a whole group of songs and put it on YouTube or make a full on video. I have talked about doing it, and I will do it again, especially with a lot of changes between then and now. And what's so funny that you mention it, and just because I was testing my sound and make sure I was good to go, I happened to look at it. I hadn't watched the video in like a couple of years, and I was watching before we started, and even looking at the video, it's kind of like, oh wow, like there's been a lot of changes. And I think it's been about 5 years or so, and I'm like, oh, this I'm definitely a lot different than I was then. So it's it's it is something I definitely want to do again because I am not the same person, and so
Right.
I'll definitely get one done soon. And I have people who have offered to do it with me since my sister is retired.
Yeah,
Uh,
you can't put that on her for especially. I mean, you can get real side eye reactions though. She'll give you that
yeah,
true attitude, but that's good.
yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah. So then the other changes that have been happening. I don't think very often you find somebody in the trajectory that you are. Normally you see people at their start, or what I think most often, especially being in the fitness space, is you just see the after, and then you
yeah,
get comments like, wow, you're so lucky, or man, that like I wish I could do that. And
yeah,
then you don't like, so like currently you're in this like right in the middle of it, right? I'm sure, and we could talk
yeah,
about like the progress and where you started, but kind of like, I knew you around that 6 years ago, 5 years ago,
yeah,
and then now I haven't seen you in person in a while, but I've definitely seen the pictures and Instagram and just like what you're doing. And I remember probably 5 or 6 years ago, you were also trying to start. I think you were always kind of battling with fitness and health and weight and everything like that. Uh, could you kind of go into like way before that initially? Like what was kind of the stop, start, and then like what's different now?
yeah. I think it's always been a lifelong battle. I think more so once I got into like eighth, ninth grade is when you kind of start realizing that you're a little different from everybody else, and when it comes to body types and everything like that. So I think once, but wasn't a thing where I was legitimately trying to combat it until like junior senior year. So I had done like this program with Kaiser where you do like take shakes and like you just fast. You don't eat at all. And so like I did that my senior year in high school, and I had lost like 80 pounds then. And but when you're doing that kind of stuff, it's just more like this discipline thing where you kind of put your head down, but you're not really fixing or working on everything else that contributes to that. So I ended up doing that same program like three or four times off and on for like the next 10 years. And so then I'm getting into my late 20s, and every time you would do it, I would lose some weight and feel good. And then as soon as I felt even remotely good, it was like, okay, like I'm good. And then I get off, and then I would gain the weight back plus some. So then all of a sudden, I'm in, when that video and everything started coming around, like I was probably at one of my heaviest times. And it's just one of those things where you're like trying to work on it, but the farther you get in the wrong direction, the harder it is to come back. So, and it's mentally draining, and every day is at that point. When you kind of end up being over 500 pounds, every day is just a struggle. The irony is a lot of that I didn't realize until going through this process of how hard that was in those times of carrying around all that weight every day. Just from even when you wake up, it's just like you wake up sitting on the edge of the bed and you're like, ugh. Like like it. You just start out negative, so it's I never realized how heavy mentally that weight was, just not physically. Like it was just a battle that was hard to really combat.
And what was the heaviest that you ever
The
got? Do you remember?
heaviest, the heaviest. Oh yeah, definitely can't forget. The heaviest I've ever been is 578. And
578.
so, yeah, so when I got to that point, it was one of those obvious punch to the gut. Like I knew it was going to be bad when I weighed in, uh, but like that was probably like I thought maybe like 525 maybe.
And is
And
this at the hospital? Like,
yeah,
are
this
you
is in the
just like a
hospital. Yeah,
doctor checkup and, you've been hearing for years or whatever, like, hey, you got to watch your weight. We need to go back on this. And you're like, yeah, yeah. And then it had been like a year and you were like trying to guesstimate how much you weigh. And then you step
yeah,
on the scale and it's just like,
yeah. So the last time I did that program with Kaiser, it was when I had that weigh in. So I was like, uh, so it hit me harder because I'm thinking in my head, I'm already like planning how this would go. I'm like, all right, well, if I'm at like 525 in like 3-4 months, if I do that right, I'll be at 425. And I'm just kind of had this whole, idea of how that process would go. And, and I, that it was a mental, like physical, everything punch in the gut when I saw it. And, I think that was the worst I ever did through that program too. It was just like, all I could think about was how far I had to go. So even like I think I lasted like maybe 6 weeks in there, and I was never a fan of the process of it. Like to me it just wasn't something that fit for me. Like you go to a class with a bunch of different people, and you have to sit there and they want you to talk about your feelings. But I'm very ironically very private until I'm
right,
comfortable. So you want me to sit in this room with a bunch of people and talk about the the deepest, most sensitive parts of me with a bunch of people I don't know, and frankly don't care to know in that situation.
right.
It was just not something that was for me. So going through that, and then it was just kind of like at the end of that, it almost felt like it was like, I guess it's just my life, man. Like it just I can't seem to get past it no matter what I do, and I guess this is where I'm going to be.
Yeah, because it sounds like when you were running through that program, it was just because that's what you were just told to do. It's almost like it was just like, oh, they're saying that I'm overweight, so I have to do this to lose weight, so I can just go back. And so it always seemed like you were just doing it so you can get back to, so they'll leave you alone almost, instead of being like, I don't want to weigh this much anymore. You were more like, okay, they keep bothering me. Everybody's concerned. Like, I just need to take these shakes, lose this weight. Is that right?
Yeah, I obviously like in if I could snap my fingers, I would have a six pack and
Right.
look
Yeah.
amazing, and I would
Yeah.
love that as well. But yeah, when you do feel, I the doctors are always, even if I was like, even if I lost another 100 pounds from where I'm at now, I'm sure the doctors would still be on me as that man. So like that's just what they do, and that's their job. I get that. And I had close friends who were honest with me about it, and those are the type of people that I actually hold closest to my heart because that's a hard conversation to have with somebody. Period. To be like, hey, you need to work on this. You need to do this, and especially when you don't know how I'll react to it. So,
Right.
I definitely had friends and some family that were, very honest with me and telling me how they felt and that they wanted to see me be around for a long time and didn't want my life getting cut short because of this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it can often come off as very like, I don't even know the word right now, but it could be difficult where, like, if I were to try to approach you and be like, hey, man, like, let's work, it's like, I have no idea what you were going through and how you feel. All I know how to do is get in shape and stay in shape, right? Like, just that
Yeah,
grind. But I have no idea what it's like to wake up and be 400, 500 pounds. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's like, and I know that it's definitely not just, oh man, just go run, because I'm sure if you don't mind explaining kind of what are the things that maybe people don't realize how different life has to be at 500 pounds versus 185 pounds that I am.
yeah. So, it's I think one of the biggest things that people don't take into account is in reality, it's the physical aspect of it is hard, right? So waking up, it's like if you were going to put on a 200 pound, 300 pound, vest and have to walk around and do everything in it, walk in it, work in it, just this weight literally on your shoulders 24/7 is just an automatic drain, period. Like, there's not really much room for anything other than the basics. Going to work, going to the grocery store, just doing things you have to do. And there wasn't a whole lot of, energy for anything beyond that. And mentally, it's very hard. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned through this process in general is to really keep a close eye on my mental health, and it's something that, especially for guys and for black guys too, it's not really a thing that we like to talk about. Mental health, because I think it's looked at as a sign of weakness if you're having struggles with that, and I think it's been a constant everyday grind to think about my mental health and think about how I'm feeling and not looking too far ahead and just literally you have to take this stuff day by day and just get through those battles of that day, because if you look at the process long term, it's very overwhelming just thinking like, okay, well, I still have like another 100 150 pounds I want to lose. If I keep thinking about that aspect of it, it's just too much. It's like looking at the top of the mountain from the bottom. It's just something that isn't uh, doesn't really help you in that journey. But just kind of looking like, okay, well, the way I look at it now is like, okay, I'm at the bottom. Let's just get 10 steps ahead and then just concentrate on those 10 steps. All right, one foot in front of the other. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. And then you get there. And then you do that each time. And all of a sudden you look down and you're like, oh, snap. Like, I'm halfway there. Like, how did I get here? And so it's definitely the mental aspect is the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah, and look at it more like, and I think that's the biggest difference from when I saw you starting to work many years ago on your weight and doing the shakes and things. It was like a means to an end. It was like I just have to do this to so I can
Yeah.
just be a weight. And now it seems like, and in your post, without if I didn't even read it, it looks way more like you're into the process of doing it than it is the end result. Obviously, the end result, and you want to keep seeing that trending thing. But
Yeah.
and I see, I'm at a gym all the time, so I see people and getting success and stuff, and it just becomes a part of their life. They just become someone who works hard in the gym, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and outside of the gym and with nutrition and all that stuff. It's not like everybody that comes in with like, just let me, like, if I was skinny, I could just stop working out. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's not the process. You just are someone who just works out all the time. And I see that in your post now with the ducking focused and just like, you're just putting in hours now. You know what I mean? It's instead of being like coming to the gym and being like, all right, what do I need to do? And then it's
Yeah.
been a half an hour. Is that good enough? You're in there hitting, an elliptical for 90 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, like all those times. And just, you could just see like heart rate's up. You're climbing these hills. That's taking like all that stuff is exactly the process. There's no like best, shortest way. It's just, it seems like you're just ready to grind and you're doing it day after day. So that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
definitely. It's I going through it. Even now, sometimes I'll look at myself, and like even if I look at posts or just how far I've come now, it's it's so weird because I'm like it's almost like it's like watching myself. It's not like I almost don't feel like I'm in it. I just feel like I'm watching it happen like everybody else is, and it's just such a trip because uh, it's just it's new, but it's comfortable. Like I'm very comfortable in this, and I never thought I would be. Like I go into situations like, for example, this past weekend, like, well, this past week was like a big deal. I went on vacation and I worked out every day when I was on vacation, like every single day. And even people in the in the resort were like, "Hey man, I've seen you in the gym in the morning. That's crazy. Like, keep doing your thing." And just like the type of support that used to scare me, like if anybody made eye contact with me in the gym before, it used to like it would deter me. I would not want to be there. Like, don't look at me. Don't just pretend like I'm not here. But it's been different. So I worked out every day on vacation, and then I came home, and I had a few days before I got to go back to work. So I went up and worked out with this guy Anthony up in Anaheim on Friday, and he's a guy that started out at 600 pounds and now he's down to 260. And it was just somebody that I knew I could relate to. I could pick his brain, and he would be able to explain this process because he's already been through most of what I'm going through. So that was amazing. And man, dude kicked my ass. Like I'm still sore from the stuff I did with him, and but I learned a lot, and I'm gonna still work out with him and stuff here and there, and learn from him. And then the very next day, I go to LA and I work out with my friend Shannon and some people. We went to UCLA
Mhm.
and did this stair workout, and that was after doing the stair climber the previous day. And I was telling her, we went to lunch after. I was like, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that I would have done this stuff this weekend, I would have laughed in your face. Like just even being able to, I used to, even after in the beginning when I started workout, if I did a hard workout, I was done for the whole day. Like I couldn't move. Like I'd be laid out on the couch
Mhm.
and need like almost a full 24 hours to even get back to normal. And now I'm doing crazy workouts, 1,000+ calorie, 1,500 calorie burn workouts back to back, and it's a an amazing feeling, and it's more motivating. It's like, okay, now when people are like, "Hey, good job, I see you working," da-da-da. Even a friend that I was at the workout was saying that, like, oh, he has a different look in his eyes. He's not. It's not just him working out. Like he's determined. Like he's not worried about what everybody else is doing. And it's very true because working out in the middle of UCLA, there's people there on tours. There's people everywhere, and and I thought about it yesterday. I usually would be very self conscious about the fact that I'm like run up and down stairs and jogging for the first time. I'm doing this in front of essentially hundreds of people walking through, and I was even worried about them. And it's funny because I didn't even think about it till way after the fact that I even stopped and took a picture for somebody in the middle of the workout, like
Yeah.
sweaty and like huffing and puffing, and
Yeah.
like I wasn't even at all embarrassed, and that's something that I've always struggled with. So when you see those little victories over and over, and like those little stepping stones, my friend loves to call them jump squats. When we get some good happens and we're feeling good, and it's added motivation and next steps, like, all right, jump squats. And that's definitely what it was for me. It's just thinking like, dang man, like all these situations that would have like tied me up so hard in the past, or not, or just in the past. And so it makes me really excited about continuing this process and trying new things and working harder. So I know next time we go to UCLA, the little system we did, it was like you go up and down the stairs, you do 10 squats, 10 crunches, like crunches, and then 10 push-ups off the wall, and then you run a lap. So I was able to do 6 with the smallest lap that you're in, and I got to jog for the first time, which was great. So I'm like, okay, well, next time we come, like it'll be at least 7, and we're gonna extend the lap, and so on and so forth. Because now it's like, okay, I'm here, but I want to get there, and I want to keep getting better and better every time I go. So I'm really excited about continuing this process.
Hell yeah. And for the day to day, like where are you getting your workouts from? Where are you just coming up with them? Did you pay for like a workout book or
No, I've been really fortunate to have people, friends that work out with me and teach me things. Uh, and I haven't really paid for anything, workout wise. And I do wing a lot of stuff that I do by myself, but it's all stuff that I've learned. And then I just kind of, like if I knew I need to do back stuff, like I suck at knowing all the names of everything. Like I would not
that's fine.
pass any test
Yeah.
at all, but I know when I'm there what I need to do, and then I'm like, okay. And like how you mentioned before in the beginning, it kind of be like, all right, let's just be in here an hour, and then we'll go from there. But I remember I went on vacation in April and I was in Florida, and I was like, I want to work out while I'm here too. And when I was there, there was no time constraints, so it was just kind of like I have as much time as I want. And then before I knew it, I was working out for like 2 hours and stuff. So now I'm just in there until I'm done. Like, you know what I mean? Like I
Yes.
get
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there and I work, and I'm not looking at how much time it's been. I'm just kind of like, okay, like, no, I can do a few more rounds, a few more sets, a few more machines, and it's an awesome feeling. I'm actually having a lot of fun. Like
That's
it's
good.
hard, and I'm sore more often than not, but I'm having fun, and the process is amazing, and I'm meeting new people who are awesome and supportive, and it's just it just keeps getting better and better. Every month has been better than the last, and I've been going at it since like exercise wise consistently since January, and it's just like it's getting better and better and better, and
And
it's
how
getting
much
harder
weight?
and harder too.
Right, yeah. It definitely doesn't get easier, but how much weight have you lost?
All right, so since 2020, I'm down 160 pounds.
160.
Yeah, so like
Have you
it's
like deadlifted 160 and be like, I used to just get out of bed and take a shower and walk up steps and drive a car with this weight on my body, like just
yeah,
160 pounds of plates, just stack them up and then just, you know what I mean?
it's
Like,
crazy. Like a few weeks ago, I was working out with my friend, and she hopped on my shoulders because she was saying you've lost more than me. So like she hopped on my shoulders. We took a picture, and I had her up there. We were in the 24-hour fitness, and I was just walking around in one of the rooms with her on my shoulders. And I think I had her up there for like 5 minutes, And I was being funny and like like squatting, like acting like I was gonna drop her,
mhm.
and uh, and then when she got off, it's when it hit me, like how like oh my
Oh,
gosh, like, oh, I can stand up. Oh, like, oh, I feel so much like that relief.
yeah.
And then it hit me like, dude, like I've been doing this, like I was doing it every day, not only for like years, but like for over a decade, just every day, day in, day out. And looking back on it, it seems like it would be torture. Like
You'd
who
want to
who
get out of
would
that
put
as soon
themselves
as possible, right?
exactly who in their right minds would put themselves through that process. So it's like one of those things where again, like the mental aspect of life really comes into play because you almost have to be crazy to be to live like that. And obviously it's more complicated than that, but
For sure.
you know, but just it's just crazy that that's how I was living. Like I will never forget like that relief feeling and like just seeing like I'm not living like that anymore. And the funny thing is like I'm like halfway there. Like I still want to lose another 100 plus, maybe even 150. So it's like it's a process that it's still going, and I know I'm going to have even more of those experiences where I'm like, wow, even now I'll look back on today and be like, I can't believe I was walking around with that much weight. Like it's a process that I've come comfortable with understanding that this is a change that I need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it just slowly keeps opening more and more doors. You no longer have to look at chairs at like picnics or going over somebody's house and they have like those regular plastic chairs and they're like, sit down, hang out. And you're like, I can't sit on that chair, but I'll
No,
stand.
yeah,
And then you'll be
yeah,
like, no, I'm just going to stand. And then standing with 500, 600 pounds on your feet, you're just hanging out at a bonfire for 3 hours. And then you get home and you're
yeah.
like, right? Like, I can,
Yeah,
yeah. So, back to the mental side of it, the mindset stuff, and how you used to kind of like not want encouragement, or if people would cheer you on, it kind of felt like it was like you didn't want it. You're like, please just don't even see me.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people either, that are extremely new to the gym atmosphere or are overweight or not comfortable with their bodies, they go to the gym and they feel like right when they walk in, everyone's like, and then they're just forming all these opinions and being like, oh, this person shouldn't be here, all this stuff. And I'm sure
yeah,
there are, people out there that do think negative thoughts, but most of the people, and especially like the atmosphere that I'm at with the gym and how I think and how I talk to people, that it's the opposite. That is the place to go. Imagine if you went into the hospital and nurses were looking at you like, I can't believe you have a cold. Like, it's like, no, 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 that's like the whole point why you're there. So, uh, it is true that when they look at you, especially if they're seeing you multiple times and they're like, "Hey man, keep it up." It's not like I feel bad for you or they pity you or anything. They're just like, "Hey man, you're working hard. It's hard for everybody. Like it's really hard for me in the gym. It's just different. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's different things." So it's good now that you were able to flip that in your mind. And if somebody says something positive to you, it can be a positive instead of now you're already feeling uncomfortable. You're tired. You don't want to be there. Someone says something to you and you're like, I'm just out of here. Like, I don't want to deal with any of this. So,
yeah. It's true. Like it's definitely become uh, a motivation as opposed to a hindrance. Like I think in the beginning, especially in the very beginning, I've always felt like a spectacle in some way, shape, or form. Like and I so it was just always like just don't look at me because if you're looking at me now, you're looking at me, all of me, and so it's just something that would make me really uncomfortable. And it's weird now that like I kind of welcome it. Like my walk into the gym is very different. Like people at the front desk recognize me because I'm in there. You know what I mean? Like, and it's different. Like I'm not just some person that's come in once or twice and then you never see him again. Like I've been in there for months, and like at the end of the day, like my results speak for themselves. So like whether people know that or not, in my head, I know I'm in there, getting results. I'm in there putting in work and I'm changing. So like my personal view of myself has changed so much that I don't really worry as much about people. Don't get me wrong, I still have my moments. Like I went to a friend's Fourth of July uh, barbecue, and she was awesome. She was bragging to everybody, her family and stuff. And like, he's lost 160 pounds and I was kind of like, oh, yeah, like hold on, slow down, because like,
there's a lot of
like
work. I haven't made it,
yeah,
but
exactly. And it is something. It is an accomplishment, and I never want to take that away from myself. But when it at the end of the day too, when you're people who don't know you are finding out, like in my head, I'm kind of like yeah, he's lost 160 pounds, but obviously he has more weight to lose. So it's always one of those things like we don't have to like put all that out there, but
right.
it's still a process of being comfortable with everything. And some days are easier than others. Some days like I can get super introverted and like leave me to myself. But I think I'm becoming more and more comfortable with the process and being uh, visual and allowing people to see me. And when I started doing the duck and focus stuff, and I put it out there originally because I wanted to do it for accountability. Because I'm like, okay, this year I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. And so in the very beginning, when I was still like, starting, I'm like, well, what are the ways I can make it to where I can't stop? How can I force myself even when I get to a point of I want to quit or I'm not going to quit? Well, if everybody on Facebook and Instagram know I'm working and all of a sudden I just disappear, people are going to ask you what's up, like whether you want
A
it or
month
not. They'd
goes
be like,
by.
hey,
Hey man, you still
yeah,
hitting it? You're like, oh.
yeah, exactly. And I know that would be that would happen, but in that process too, it's been an overwhelmingly amount of support and love from people, and even people I would never expect it from. And it's just all motivation for me. People have told me that it helps them get in the gym and get them started, and that's the kind of stuff I don't take lightly, and that's what really makes it an added motivation for me. Because if I'm somehow helping somebody in their process, it almost makes having to go through this process worth it for me. Because if I can help somebody else, that's awesome. Like to be able to somehow have that effect. I don't know what I'm doing other than just working on me, but if working on me helps you, then it's going to make me work harder. And so I've kind of learned to love the attention in a weird way, but it's for the right reasons. Like I
Yeah.
love that it's it's having a positive effect on people around me and makes me want to keep doing it. And I would love the opportunity to be able to help others and do things like this and talk about it and be honest and open
Yeah,
and let people
absolutely.
know, because it's not easy. It's really not. But if you can find it, if you give yourself enough time to get in there to where you can fall in love with the process, like this journey is everything. And if you just give yourself the opportunity to get there, it's ducking dope, man. I'm telling you,
Duck
like
and dope,
it's
yeah.
it really is. And like
Because, well,
every day I love it more.
what if you heard yourself saying this 6 years ago? Would you believe yourself? Because, like, now you're looking back and you're like, I was kind of crazy for living like that. Like, who would live like that? And now you're like, this process is amazing. And I'm sure you've went at some point in your life, somebody told you like, hey man, fitness is great. It feels good. Your body's going to be feel
Yeah,
better. And you're going to be like, yeah, but we're different. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like you couldn't
exactly.
relate to anyone at that point.
Yeah, and, like I've definitely had people offer to work out with me, and train me for free and stuff over the years. And it was like, hey, just come out, and but it's always somebody with 6 pack, 8 pack, and telling me, yeah, you can do this, and I'm like, cool, buddy, thanks for
We're going to start out with
uh,
10 pull-ups and then we're going to run
yeah,
5 miles. Here, we're going to wear a
yeah,
weight vest. And you're like, nah, dude, no. That's why I
yeah,
asked
and
you where you were getting your workouts, because you don't just buy a program and you can't relate. Like there's no, you can't just get on every single treadmill. You know what I mean? You can't just run a
exactly.
mile, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've gotten the opportunity to work with awesome people who meet me where I'm at every level, and show me things, and I always end up doing more than I thought I could in that moment. And then so once it's like, okay, now I just took 2 steps during that session that I had with that person, so now I know I could do this on my own when they're not with me.
Yep.
And the cool thing is, like, it's like it's a few people now, so I have, like, like I said, I went to Anaheim and had a workout. I have my friend in LA that's been working with me, and I have a couple friends here that are trainers that I've been friends with for years, and like always offered to work out with me, and I'm like, I never ever wanted to commit to something unless I knew I was going to do it. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
so I never wanted to waste anybody's time. So I never told anybody yes, because I knew I wasn't in the headspace to actually commit to it. So it's been awesome, and I'm very blessed and thankful to have people who support me in this journey and help me get to the next spot. Even my cousin out in Vegas, he's always been like, like a little muscle head. And when I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago, me and him worked out, and it was like, I want to go to the gym. Like he's been like making me do this stuff for years, just pain in my ass. But I was like, no, let's go. And I was able to do some things with him that I hadn't done before, and it was just like, all right, man, this is good. So like I kind of welcome these opportunities to work out with people, because I know it's going to push me farther than I know I can go. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I'm here. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep building, and it's just an awesome process.
Hell yeah. It's you're, I'm telling you, man, you're right in the middle of it. I can see it. You can see it. I can never explain what it looks like until I see it. You know what I mean? It's one of those, like,
Yeah,
I've seen people work on their fitness, and it's not that I doubt them or I'm just like, they're probably going to quit, cuz I definitely don't want them to. You know what I mean? Anytime they're
yeah, of
like, "Hey, I
course.
started a workout routine." I'm like, "That's awesome. Like, keep it up. Like, I'll see you in a week." But then you're never just like, but then I see the post and it's like, this is exactly, you're on that train. Are you doing anything different nutrition wise, or is it only focused on the physical?
Yeah. So last year, and probably like March of last year, with everything going on in 2020, I was like, oh, like once everything kind of shut down, I was like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to work on myself because I can't go anywhere. Like outside of going to work, I couldn't. You weren't hanging out with people. So I remember I made like a video of me going up and down the stairs in the stairwell of my apartment,
Yes.
and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start doing this, and I'm like, but there wasn't a whole lot of room to exercise, so I'm like, okay, at least I can start like eating better. I can't go out everywhere, so I cut out juice and sugar and everything, and that was a big process in the beginning, and that's what I did mostly, like just trying to commit to that, and I lost like half of the weight that I've lost so far was during that time. So like as soon as I stopped drinking juice and eating all the chips and snacks and all that stuff, the weight that first part of the weight just started falling off like without any effort. And I was doing keto, which I hate. I keto is it gets a lot of love and it has a lot of critics. I say keto because it's just easy to say, but basically
Low
low
carb,
carb,
high fat. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, low sugar, and even not even always high fat, just like like chicken, vegetables, just no carbs. But it was
Right.
just easier to call it keto. And if I needed to cheat within the keto realm, then if I had like a hamburger with cheese on top, it wasn't the
Yeah.
end of the world.
You're right. Exactly. Yeah.
But
Mitigating the
yeah,
cheating for sure.
so that's how I started out, and so I've been doing pretty much that level of eating the whole time. I did lose my grandma towards the end of last year, and
Oh man,
I
I'm
lost
sorry.
her in December. Yeah, thanks. And she gotten sick around March, April, and so by the time it got really bad, like I remember the first time I saw her, and I knew like things were different now. Like I went to McDonald's right after that, and it was one of those things where I couldn't deny anymore that like my life affects how I eat. I never thought of myself as an emotional eater. I just thought of myself as somebody who likes to eat and has like low metabolism. That's how I would,
Hmm.
like measure it in my head. But all I remember when I saw her, I was like, I just want to get out of here and go grab some food. And I ate McDonald's in the parking lot like that. So I was like, I couldn't deny it anymore
Mm.
that was what it was. So once like I say like once October hit and we knew like we're probably gonna lose her. Like I couldn't handle work going through that process with her and everything else. Like that was a lot of mental pressure. So I kind of let my diet go and I was like, I'm just gonna eat whatever I'm gonna eat, and we'll cross that bridge when I get to it. So we did that. I did that for a few months, and then we lost her in December. Had the funeral and everything, and then so when January came, I was like, it'd been a few weeks since we had lost her, and she had always been one of the ones that'd be like, Brian, I want you to get healthy. I want you to do what you need to do. And she even wrote me a letter one time, my handwritten
Mm.
letter, and it was, and so when after she passed, I was like, all right, that was a motivation to me to do this for her because, like some of my cousins that have kids and got married, and she got to see that, and I knew she wasn't going to get to see those things from me. So, but I still want her to see them just from heaven or whatever. So
Absolutely.
I was like, all right, I need to get to work, and so I hit my friend up, and I was like, hey, uh, you know, I've never been one to do a whole lot on my own, so I told her I was like, hey, like I need to get to work, I need to get in the gym, and I need your help. And she's like, all right, let's go tomorrow morning, and that was like second week of January, and haven't stopped. Like if anything,
Yes.
definitely picked up the pace. So it's like I know she's gonna be proud, and it's weird because I almost like even losing her, I feel closer to her than I did when she was alive, and it's just added motivation for me, and I have some of her stuff in my house. Even looking, I have her clock up on my wall, and she's just always here. It's
Yeah.
just that
Absolutely.
added motivation. And I know I'm gonna kill it, and we're halfway through the year. Like I can't wait to see what the second half brings. It's gonna be great. I know it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And just going back to like the lockdown and everything, that's a very, very dangerous place, especially for someone that or anyone with, struggling mentally or with weight. And then it's so easy to be like, well, if before, when everything was open 2, 3 years ago, you had every single gym at your disposal, every track, everything, and you're like making not excuses, but not making it a priority to work out. And then now there's a lockdown. It would be so easy to be like, all right, well, whenever this lockdown stops, I'm going to go start working out. Instead of
Yeah.
being like, I got stairs at my apartment, and then you're recording yourself up and down those stairs. And that's when I think that was probably the first time where I was like, that's it. Like that's one of those things that you do when you're ready to make a change, and there isn't an excuse. Like walking upstairs is tough. I'm gonna do that for 10 minutes. I'm gonna do it for 11 minutes, just like that. So that's good. And then it was also, I think it's also really good that you identified like the trigger for eating. I think so many people, myself included, walk around. They have so many triggers that they don't know are triggers until, like, for example, what happened to you, and then you realize you're like, why am I in a parking lot right now just like eating McDonald's? Like I wasn't even hungry. I just like this was my first place to go. And then now you're like, okay, I'm an emotional eater. Like if I'm having a very stressful day, I need to aim this somewhere. You know what I mean? And that's
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge, man. I'm glad that you figured that out.
Yeah, it is great, and I think going through that process, even 2020 in general, like there were so many things going on, race, politics, just the stress of not seeing your friends and family and everything. It was just one of those. It was like a pressure cooker for everybody, and I'm
Yes.
very lucky and very blessed that that pressure has been like created a mini diamond for my personal life. But I know there's a lot of people that weren't as fortunate in that process, but it's that mental health stuff, man, is no joke. Like it's really not. And I think even after going through the process of losing my grandma, I realized how stressful work can be. Like obviously I met you because me and your sister worked together.
Right.
As being 911 dispatchers, and I think I always looked at the job as a job. Like I never really realized how stressful that job was until I had to try to balance the stress of that job with the stress of you know, helping take care of my grandma towards the end. And it was like there was just no outlet. Like my days off, kind of went to that. And I'm stressed every day at work in general. So all of a sudden, like you're starting to realize, hey, this isn't, I was always so used to just being in that mental like gray cloud. I just lived in it. So once you got out of it for a little bit, all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, like this is harder mentally than I ever gave it credit for, and so it's something I have to keep in mind as well, and have to make a conscious effort to not let that get me down or be a deterrent for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I'm sure it's extremely difficult to compartmentalize everybody calling in with their worst day or their problem, and then you trying to help them regardless of how nice or not nice they are to you. And then you're just supposed to just put your headset down and then be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go do this. Like, let's go for a jog, or like, let's, anybody got any jokes? Like, it's like, I
Yeah,
just, had somebody try to do CPR to their baby, you know what I mean? Or like whatever.
yeah,
And you got to carry that. And like, my mom was a dispatcher. Obviously, my sister's a dispatcher, and she would just come home and just be like, try you can just tell from, I mean, I've obviously never done it, but the people around me that have done it, it is absolutely a huge cognitive load to deal with those types of people in all those situations, no matter how little or much about that. Like you're like, oh, my mom would come home and be like, yeah, I just talked to a 10-year-old where they cried while their mom was like dying on the floor and the ambulance was getting there. And she's like, I just drove home and just cried the whole time, just thinking about this little kid. Or like, whatever, being as vague as she had to be, because, all
yeah,
that. But it was just like situations like that where you just like, how do I even just, and then you feel like you have to hold it in, because you can't get specific. You can't like tell anybody. You're just
yeah.
doing that stuff. So, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely a process, but I think once you're aware of it, it's easier to work on and address. When you realize that it does affect you,
Mhm.
acknowledgement's a big deal. I think that's the hardest part for a lot of us, is just to acknowledge that there is an issue, or that we are stressed, that we are, you know, use the depression word. Like those are words that nobody likes to use because I always looked at it as a sign of weakness to be like, you know what? Damn, I was depressed. and like looking back on it, there was a lot of depression. And even in the time that I've been dispatching, it'll be 11 years in October. I gained a lot of weight in those 10 years. So
Hmm.
like actually thinking about, you know, how much that the job and just life in general affects you, it's something that, we kind of ignore, but if you actually acknowledge it and, deal with those feelings, the outcome is so much better than just ignoring it. You're just delaying the inevitable.
And did somebody help you with that mindset stuff, or was that a book that you read, or is this something that you just kind of learned the hard way?
I would definitely say I learned the hard way, for sure. I really wish it was something I read in a book because I would love to be like, here it is. This
Read
is the
this
book
book, yeah.
that set me free.
Yeah.
But I think it was just, for a lack of a better way to put it, I just kind of hit my personal rock bottom. And
Yeah.
I know that, a lot of people you hear say that, you know, they hit their rock bottom and they were able to, come back from that. And it's just kind of what it was. I don't think anybody ever really knows, even some people that are close to me, like how hard life was at certain times. Because I love my friends, I love the people that are close to me, and I never want to put my issues on them. So I kept a lot of that to myself as well, and that's probably part of the problem is, you don't even have anybody, or you don't allow yourself to have somebody to talk to. I have people that would definitely listen to me, and I tee off a lot now after going through this
Good.
process.
Nice.
I have people when I'm stressed, I tee off and I'm like, and we talk and I say what I need to say, and it keeps keeps that pressure valve open, and as long as you
Yes.
keep that thing open, it really helps. Yeah, you're gonna complain, there's things you're gonna go through, and it's not necessarily positive, but if you talk through it, talk about it, you know, acknowledge how you're feeling, let that out, and you're not holding it in. It is so much better. Like even just thinking about everything now, I just like mentally I feel lighter, and it just makes you happier. It's just like, oh, like when I think about certain situations where I used to keep it to myself, and then I can literally feel the stress of it. Like like in that moment, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that that's not where my head's at now, and it's a continual process every day. Like if I go like, oh, I'm doing good, which I've done in the past, like, oh, like I'm good, like I don't have to worry, like this is me now. And then
Mm,
as soon as you get complacent, all of a sudden you're right back in the hole. You're like, how did I get in here?
right.
So every day, duck and focus every day, every day, every day, every day, and I think about it every day. And even posting about it helps me stay focused on it, and I try to be honest in my posts and stuff. I try, if I post a picture, I try to put a caption on there. I know some that are long, and probably some people are like, "Okay, we get it," but like it's therapy for me too to be like, "Hey, I was on vacation and I had to climb into a boat that in January there's no way in hell I would have been able to do." Like that's therapy for me. Talking about it is therapy. It releases things for me, and it's a process that I'm really falling in love with. I really don't see there is no way in hell I can go back from it now. I
Yes.
know
Good.
too
Good.
much now. I've learned too much now. I have too much support that if I went back,
You'd
it's
have
just
people at your
impossible.
house just pulling you out, like, we're doing stairs, we're running, we're going back to UCLA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just impossible, and I'm glad that uh, I have the support that I do, and I'm glad that I've said yes to people that I would have said no to in the past, and
Hmm.
it's a process that it's a learning, and I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn. I can never sit here and be like, "Hey guys, I got it all figured out." Come to me. Like, no, I am a student of the game, as people would like to say, and I will. And like you said, it's not a thing where you're looking. Okay, I can get to the top of the mountain and then I can retire. I lost the weight. I'm done. This is just life now, and it's going to be. Even after I get to my goal weight, it's not like I can just stop because I made it to that point. I have to keep the weight off. I have to keep doing what I want, and I'm probably gonna have new goals once I hit my goal weight anyway. So like
Yes.
in the beginning, I just wanted to lose the weight, and I was working out with one of my friends who's a trainer, And I was like, oh, this is Operation Get Jacked, because you start seeing like little changes in your body, and your traps start
Little shoulder
growing, and
stuff, like
your forearms, and
what?
you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, like you start liking that feeling. So I was like,
Oh
oh, it's
yeah.
Operation Get Jacked 2021. And I just don't want to lose the weight. I want to look good. I want to feel good, and it's a it's getting fun, man. It is like every these workouts are hard, and I never want to tell anybody like because sometimes when you post on social media, it looks like, oh, look, like I'm having fun, I'm losing weight, and I am having fun, but like we do this hill where we hike it, and people are like, oh, I want to go. I'm like, it's all cute with what I post, but what you don't see is that my head's down 90% of the time, and I'm just and all I can hear is my breath even through my headphones, and it's not pretty like at all.
Head is
But
pounding. Your body's like,
yeah,
stop it, stop. What do we could go
stop
back. We
over
don't
and
need to
over
do
and
this.
over.
We don't
Yeah,
need to do. Yes, that's
and
good.
then
And
you get
it's
to one point, yeah, but it's a grind. It really is, but it feels good to 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 keep making progress and reaching new steps and making new goals. It's amazing. It really is.
hell yeah. And then so I guess how did you? I don't think I ever knew how you came up with the name White Rhino.
All right, so the white rhino thing, if I'm being honest, like, so when the video went viral, I did a lot of interviews and everybody was asking, where did it come from? And I'm going to acknowledge my coworker, Brent, who always gives me crap for never acknowledging that he named me that. Um, and the story is a little off color, but at the end of the day, um, I was known for having a lot of Caucasian girlfriends that were friends. So he was like, "Oh, you should go on some show and you could be White Rhino and the Ivory Hose." And I was like, uh, and I was like, I'm like, okay, dude. But like he made a joke, and I thought, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna run with this, and so when the video went viral, I had changed my name on YouTube from my real name to White Rhino because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, this video is starting to make progress. But then everybody wanted to talk about the White Rhino thing, so
Yeah.
like
You're like, no,
it
no,
was
no.
just
Focus on the singing.
yeah,
Focus on the singing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it was like one of those things. And then every time I do these interviews and they ask, and then it'd be kind of like, well, like, do you want to know like really why they call me that, or and it would usually be like, oh, because I have Indian in my family, so I think my rated G answer was always like, oh, that's my spirit animal
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
rhino, white rhino and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is one of my favorite animals. Like it's like he's like it's a strong silent type, but like mess with their people and mess with their family,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be a problem.
But what if you get
And
all skinny and jacked that you can't be a rhino anymore? Like imagine if I called myself a rhino. I'm not very rhino like.
yeah.
You have to go like the white zebra or something, something something a little fast and more nimble. But yeah,
yeah.
so that was my next thing, and that I figured because you often post, you do have a few posts with Caucasian women that are beautiful, and I was thinking potentially now that we went through all this stuff, do you think that was somewhat of a defense mechanism that you would post on social media that you were with like taking pictures with beautiful women and then just being like, look, I'm happy, like trying to almost portray like an awesome life, but then just kind of going home and being like, well, at least somebody thinks I'm cool because I got these like, beautiful women? Or was that just, am I reading into that too much and those were just legitimately just, you just have hot friends? Or both?
I would honestly say it's a little bit of both. Like, um, I have some awesome friends, and some of them are, would be considered attractive, but like, it just kind of always kind of worked out that way. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't something that kind of like mentally kept me from drowning in some ways, because it was like, okay, well, even if I don't feel great about myself, like for whatever reason, these people who everybody looks at and goes like, wow, they're so beautiful, they love me for whatever reason. So like it was one of those things that like really kept helped keep me afloat. And I know like when it comes to those type of situations, people can read into them a lot and think like, oh, well, he's not really friends with them. He just wants to get with them, or or just weird. Boy girl relationships are always
Yeah.
can always be random, but it was definitely one of those things where um, it just helped me mentally, and I really haven't talked much about it. A couple of my friends know about it, but it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, and it was sometimes it'd be a spectacle because people wouldn't expect to see them out with me when we go out in public and stuff. So I think which would also make me very uncomfortable, but it was at least like, but they're willing to go out and be seen in public with me, so like I must not be all that bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
No, I
that's like
didn't. Yeah. I don't think anybody was looking at you like, oh, no, Brian has to be a bad guy. I think maybe, yeah, we don't have to read too much into it, but maybe it was just like, if people are going to look at me, maybe having them there, there's a little bit a different type of attention.
yeah, it's just not like yeah, exactly, and that's pretty spot on because it's like if I'm out and there was a time where I wouldn't go out at all because I was that uncomfortable with myself, but
Mm.
you know, at least if I was out and in certain situations if I'm out with somebody who's attractive and it's a spectacle, it is a spectacle for a different reason. Is not necessarily a spectacle because of my weight, which I always felt like it was. And it is sometimes, some people you would see you can make eye contact with people and people have opinions and you can see it. And then sometimes you get the little kids who are brutally honest, just run up to you and be like, wow, you're big. And you'd be like, thank you, child.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Thank you for letting me know, as if I wasn't aware of it every second of my life. But it was nice to have people look at me for a different reason. Yeah, and but you know, the funny thing about it is that like they are some of the closest people to me, and like I think people assume certain things, and it's always those relationships have been like things that have helped me in dark times, and I don't even think they know sometimes the friends that I have how much they've helped me in certain situations, and like I said, help keep me afloat. Or else I'd probably be just in hiding in my room and not come out. So
Right.
I'm thankful for the people in my life, 100%.
Absolutely.
Helped me get to this point.
Yeah, that's good. And still going up from what I see, for sure.
we're still making progress for sure.
Oh yeah. Anything special planned for Duck and Focus? Do you have another adventure? Are you hit up with any opportunities you're allowed to talk about?
Nothing yet. It's still new. Like I literally just started posting on there for the most part, like about a month or so ago. I do have goals and things that I want to do with it because you know I've seen that there is an opportunity to help people. And like you mentioned before, like it's hard for some people to take advice and want to listen to somebody who doesn't look like them. You know what I mean? Like it's hard sometimes to take advice from somebody with a six pack or even to take advice from somebody who was like me or but you it's non-existent now because you don't see any of their before pictures and just this person who's stacked and you're like, hey, you can do it too, and you're like, what are you talking about? But at least like with me going through this process now, I can be honest about the process and show people that somebody either who has just as much weight to lose or even maybe even more weight to lose is doing these things. And it's starting to get to a point where I'm doing pretty well. Like I can hold my own in the gym, and I can work out with people who are smaller than me and keep up. So like now it's a thing where I want the opportunity to be able to share that with people and show that this is a process that like people say if I can do it you can do it. Like I've been struggling with this since I was a child, and I'm
Yeah.
35 now. So like it's a long road to get here, and so it's not one of those magical. I decided a couple months ago to get going, and now look at me now kind of thing. Now this
Hmm.
has been a lifelong thing, and I've gone through every avenue and tried everything, and at the end of the day, it's just hard work and dedication and focus. Like it really is. It's just you just have to force yourself to do it until you get to a place where you start to love it and you appreciate it and you need it. But like in the beginning, it's not. It's really a thing where you have to force it. If you can have support from people in your life that really want to see that, try and surround yourself with people who think the same way. I made new friends that are just on that level, and it just adds to, gives me fuel for the fire, and just being around people who are thinking positive and want the best for themselves, not even just physically, but just in career, in life. It helps so much to be around like-minded people, and that's another thing that I've been learning, especially in the last few months, is getting to know people who think the same way I do and want the same things, and making friends with people who are where I want to go. Like I think sometimes we don't want to be around people who are doing better than us because it's not necessarily because it sometimes looking, oh, like I don't have what you have. It could be a little bit of a deterrent in life, but now like I'm around these people, I'm like, wow, I can't. Oh wow, look,
Mhm.
like look what you're doing in life. Look at your job. Look at this. Look at that. And I'm like, I could do that too. I just got to work for it. Like they work for it. I'm gonna work for it. So it's nice to be around people who are killing it and are making things happen in their own life, and it's motivation for me to do so. So we're really gonna start. I'm gonna start doing some lives and stuff. I
Yeah,
have a Nordic
nice.
track bike here at the house,
Okay.
and I'm gonna start doing some lives where, if somebody else is on a bike in the gym and they want to listen to my killer playlist and look at
Yeah.
me ride my bike, it'll be like spin class, but not so
But lip
like
syncing, yeah.
hard or
Yeah.
like we're just gonna have a good time and I think I've gotten to the point where I can start to comfortably put myself out there and I'm getting comfortable with that feeling and so I really want to try and show people, hey man, like we can all do this together. Like let's just do it. Like, it can be done, and I'm going to be focused. And if it helps to see what I'm doing, then come see what I'm doing, and we'll get it done.
Absolutely. I think obviously you know if you want to take this advice, but I think that if you start like maybe writing some things down to potentially write a book, but like try to get people on this train now. If you wait until you're at your goal weight or 275, 250, whatever you end up, going to where you want to stop or maintain, it's going
Hmm.
to be you won't be able to relate. But right
Yeah,
now, since you're in the middle of the journey, you're going to get so many more people that are going to be like, they can't have the excuse. You know what I mean? Imagine somebody messaging you and being like, dude, I'm 350 pounds. Like, you don't know what it's like. And you'd be like, I'm going to the gym in 15 minutes. So let's
yeah,
go. It's like,
yeah,
it could be like, oh, you know what? Like he's doing it and I think this is where you can really, obviously, and at the end of the journey too, those success stories, those pictures, you'll have even more experience, like you were saying, learning so much more, all the things you did wrong, all the things you did right. You'll be able to help so many more people and relate
yeah.
so much more.
Definitely, it's one of the biggest goals that I have outside of what I'm trying to do for myself, and it's like I know what it feels like to be, like I said, rock bottom. I know what it feels like to be depressed. I know that type of feeling. And for everybody, they have different reasons for why they got to that point. And I think people take that lightly. But like, we all go through struggles. You see the memes about it. Like, be nice. You never know what somebody's been through. At the end of the day, that's very true. Like, people aren't going to just come out and wear a shirt that says, their deepest, darkest secrets. So,
Right.
it's important to, uh, you know, let people know that, hey, whatever you've been through, like you can get through this, and it's a day by day process. Like I said, working on the mental health, working on the physical, all of it, but it's a day to day thing. Like you can't look too far ahead. Just it's a process. It really is. It's a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. All the lovely cliche things that I've heard over the years that would annoy the crap out of me, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I now find myself saying, and it's just because it's true. Like in some ways, you can look at it and say it's as simple as that, and it kind of is. But the the simplicity of grinding it out every day is, it can be draining physically and mentally. But
Yeah, simple isn't
if you
easy. Simple can be
it
extremely difficult. All you got to do is go
really
to the
can.
gym every day. It's that simple. You got a car, you got the time, but there's blah 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 all that stuff. Do you you say work on your mental health? Do you do that more like journaling? Do you talk to people? Is it what is the most you would say, or is it just kind of a combination of like, so tomorrow you wake up and you're like in a bad space? What do you do?
Yeah, I'd say I do some writing, which I never did before, and I found myself to be more descriptive of things, especially in this year. But one of the biggest things for me is I call it like best friend therapy, is like talking to the people that you trust and you know that you can be honest and say what you need to say, and it's not even necessarily about the advice that they give you. It's just about being able to let that stuff out, like, being honest and saying, like, this has been really hard for me, like, I've been depressed, like, these situations make me want to eat, and like today for whatever reason I just feel crappy, like, you know what I mean, like it's just good
Hmm.
to let that out. And I've been very blessed to have, close friends and stuff that were I feel comfortable to be very honest and talk about the things I need to. And so during through this process, I've had that opportunity, and when I need it, I know I can pick up the phone and call, uh, you know, quite a few people and talk about what I need to, and they're going to be there and they're going to listen, and some are going to give me advice, and it's been a process to have that, and I'm very thankful for to have those people, because going through this stuff alone is hard. Like, I couldn't. I think I could do it eventually, yeah, but I feel like I've gotten farther now faster because of the support that I've had. So, like I said, if you can have at least one person that's in your corner that you trust and you can talk to about whatever you're going through, it's gold. And I think the biggest thing is just being honest with yourself. If you could start with you, tell yourself, like, hey, you know what? I have been depressed. You know what? I do eat for the wrong reasons. No, this isn't like just a thyroid issue. This isn't just a metabolism issue. Like, there's more to this. And I think once you can acknowledge that and get comfortable with it, all the other blocks starting to fall, and then you can really make some progress. But you really do got to start with yourself first. Like, I think that true, like, being truly honest with yourself and not somebody else telling you, but you telling you, is when you can really start to make some progress and make some real changes.
Absolutely. Very nice. Well, unless you have anything else, I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this. I said like an hour to an hour and a half. It's been about 75 minutes. I didn't know. Was there anything you wanted to talk about?
No, man, I
Okay.
think it's nice to talk about these things. And again, like, even this process of, talking with you today is therapy. I think I've already said I've talked about some things I haven't really talked much about, especially in a way that, it's a public forum and people potentially can hear, but it feels good and I'm comfortable with it. And, it's just it's just another step for me. Like, this is jump squats for me too. You know what I mean? Like, it's a process, and I'm glad to share. And I hope if any one person hears this and it helps, that's awesome. And it's we're gonna keep it going. And next time you're in town, I know I missed you last time you were here, but
Yeah.
next time you're in town, we're gonna get it. And I'm excited to work out with you
I'll
because
do whatever. I'll
obviously,
do whatever's on the schedule. We can get it done, and I'll be exhausted and tired and all that stuff. Even if we need to drive up somewhere or go, I'm down for whatever. It doesn't matter. that'll be
oh
that'll
yeah,
be a
for
lot of
sure.
fun. But
Yep,
yeah,
I can't wait, man.
but yeah, thank you, and I do really appreciate it. I know this isn't easy, and I didn't know how, like, if you would be down for that. Obviously, you could have said no, but yeah, thank you for like opening up and having this conversation. I'd love to have another one. Maybe 20, in 2 months or 2022 or whatever, whenever the next big milestone is. even, you know, all of our tens of viewers may want an update. But yeah, man. And obviously I'll still be liking your posts and supporting you from New Hampshire.
Of course,
So
man. And hey, man, anytime you want to have me, honestly, like you're the man. You've always been super supportive and always offered to help me out in any way. And I'm glad to be in a headspace where I can actually receive that, so I appreciate you, man. And you've always been awesome. And we're gonna keep this thing going, man.
hell yeah, I could tell. It's
Yeah.
going to be so good. I can't wait to see the next post of whatever you're doing for a workout for however long. All right, man.
We'll
Let
get it.
me stop the recording.